So basically, welcome to Care for Your Cycle. We are going to talk about um, what every female has, their monthly cycle that we go through. And hopefully, I'm going to give you kind of a new way to look at it slash understand it. And we're going to learn a little bit more about ourselves. So I worked at Holistic Family Chiropractic for almost 4 years. And I am now focusing a little bit more on my postpartum care business that I have. So I'm a postpartum doula basically, and I help women after they have babies and do home visits and stuff like that. So if you ever have any women's health questions, I would love to at least point you in the right direction if I don't know the answer. So, yeah, that is who I am. So, most of what I got for today's workshop is from this book. It's called The Fifth Vital Sign. So, basically, it's the idea that our cycles are a vital sign, and how healthy they are kind of a mirror into how healthy we are holistically in our whole body. I also got some information from the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility, which is like a huge reference book. And then there's a book out there called The Period Repair Manual as well. So I'd like to just start with each cycle that we go through is the opportunity to know yourself better. So our period is actually our ultimate feedback mechanism. Or if you could look at it kind of as like a report card of how were you feeling this past month. It's information on what our bodies are going through, basically. So the signs of a normal period are bright red or wine-like color of blood and roughly 12 to 14 days post-ovulation. And we want them to be coming at regular intervals, somewhere between 28 and 35 days for like each full cycle. Generally, they should be about 3 to 7 days long, and they should not be painful. You can probably, like, other than like mild cramps that you maybe can feel, but they should not be in any way debilitating or nauseating. And you should have minimal to no like clots in your blood every month. So I'm just going to go through. A lot of women grow up thinking like, oh, I bleed once a month and then I just have like normal time the other part of the month. But there's actually like 4 cycles that we cycle through every single month. So the first one, you can really think of the bleed as either the first or last. So I'll just go through that first. So this is kind of like our inner winter. So we're going to relate each phase to the seasons of the year. So if you were comparing them, your menstruation would be compared to the winter. So this is like your hibernation, resting, cleansing phase, releasing built up emotional and spiritual energy. You may feel the desire to cancel social commitments. You might feel a little more introverted at this time. And your body will thrive off of nourishing, warm foods. So my postpartum teacher especially would always talk about wearing socks during either your postpartum time or your period, because warm feet means warm womb. So we want to just keep ourselves warm. That's why a lot of people love like the heating pads and stuff like that. Helps them feel better during their period. Cold and damp foods like smoothies, ice cream, ice water can actually, like, at least postpartum wise, make cramps worse. So it might actually be interesting to try during a period to like focus on warm food, see if your cramping isn't as bad, because warm cooked food is much easier to digest and your body has to put less energy into it. So rather than drinking like ice cream, ice water, smoothies, that type of thing. So during this time, hormonally, estrogen and progesterone are both low. And during this time that you're bleeding, days 1 through 4, your FSH hormone is actually going to kind of like handpick a handful of your eggs that look the most promising for future reproduction. And by days 5 to 7, that hormone is like communicating with your pineal gland. I think that's starts with a P. I feel like I said the wrong thing, but anyway, it is communicating with
Dory,
the
definitely
body.
pineal. Pineal, that's good.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
okay.
the pituitary plays a role there too, but it's
Pituitary. Yeah. That's the other one. I was like, there's 2 P's. Okay. Well, between days 5 and 7, one of those egg follicles are going to be chosen, and that's the one that you will ovulate later. So, it's also when prostaglandins will be triggering your uterus to contract. So we will and get the blood out. So basically, you're shedding the uterine lining. So then you're going to move on to, after you stop bleeding, you're moving on to your follicular phase, which is your inner spring. So this brings kind of feelings of hope and excitement. It's a great time to plan, organize. Sometimes, like, I just feel the urge randomly to like organize a closet in my house, and then I'm like, oh, I'm in my follicular phase. This makes sense. It's a good time to like visit friends. You have good creative energy, and your estrogen is rising to rebuild that uterine lining and prepare for ovulation. Yes. Okay. So during ovulation, so in mid phase of that follicular phase, if we're following that follicle will continue to mature and be ready to go out into your fallopian tube during your ovulation. So ovulation is our inner summer. So this is kind of like the biggest hormonal fluctuation. It's the culmination of all the hard work that your body has done to get you here, and you are releasing an egg. Now, whether or not you actually would like to become pregnant, ovulation is very, very important. And it's because if you're not ovulating, this synchrony of all of these hormones that go in our body is not happening in the correct way, and it can throw off a lot of different things in our body. So if we have hormonal issues, we want to make sure that at least that we are ovulating. And usually if we can allow our bodies to have a healthy ovulation, we will, and like have a healthy foundation, that is the foundation for like healthier hormones. So this is when the egg is actually released, and you may experience improved sleep, increased motor activity, more extroverted, confident energy, and men actually view women who are ovulating as more attractive versus when they're not. So, and you may actually like feel pretty. I have a friend who's always like, I just always, if I have a few days where I just feel really ugly, I know I'm about to start my period. And it's like the opposite when you're ovulating. You're like, oh, I actually look good today. You're probably ovulating. So this is when your estrogen peaks and you're at your all of the hormonal matrix to make your egg release is basically the pinnacle of ovulation. After that comes our luteal phase. So this is like our inner fall, and this is where a lot of women say that they experience their PMS symptoms. It's a somber and introspective energy. So feelings of kind of like anxious anticipation, also like for our period that's coming. So progesterone is rising, estrogen is falling, and it kind of energetically, it draws attention to the parts of your life that you don't like, but you might be ignoring. So this is kind of like your body saying, pay attention. What comes up repeatedly for you during this phase is actually important. So when we refuse to slow down and we try to keep up with everyday life, we may find that we are going to react a lot stronger to those stresses because we kind of don't have that filter of like trying to be like politically correct and an upstanding citizen in society. We're kind of just like lamenting all of the things that are wrong with us, and we need to get that out. So this is why the menstrual part can be kind of the beginning or the end. I'm remembering why I like to say it at the end is because kind of during these other three phases, you know, we have like served other people and giving all month to others, but during your period, like, don't feel bad about taking care of yourself, taking a bath, resting. Like, these are the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves. We are not, men actually run on like a 24-hour clock, and we have a full month-long cycle. So we are not men. Our cycle is monthly instead of daily, and we simply cannot afford to do the same things with the same energy every single day. That's just like a biological fact. Yes, there are like severe PMS issues and like hormonal issues that we can like fix and work on to become like a more grounded person. But in the same sense, we're always going to be in flux. So we kind of just have to accept part of that as a normal. You know, we're not just gonna, if we're kind of expecting ourselves to wake up with the same energy, the same feelings every single day, I mean, part of that's being a human, but also a little bit of that is like being a woman, because we're just not going to show up with the same energy every single day. And this month-long cycle is also why women make terrible test subjects. So a lot of nutrition, well, basically all nutrition research is done on men or postmenopausal women because they don't have to adjust for or calculate for or mess with the cycle, which messes things up. Like, we react differently to things literally because of our hormonal changes. So when we hear about like studies about intermittent fasting, for example, all those studies that show that intermittent fasting is so good for you are done on men or postmenopausal women. So like it just, some of these like revolutionary quote unquote things may not actually be beneficial for women who are cycling every single month. Okay, so we're going to touch on birth control just a tad bit, because basically what birth control does is it doesn't allow you to ovulate. So what I was talking about before about ovulation being kind of like the best, like the fifth vital sign, you know, like this is what's going to make sure that we are hormonally healthy. If we're on birth control for years and years and years and not ovulating, we can't expect it to have like no consequences. So the period that you have on birth control is actually not a real period, it's a scheduled bleed. And when they first invented birth control, they didn't have that. But women actually reported like, this doesn't feel right that I like don't bleed once a month anymore. So they like literally just put in a scheduled fake period, but it's not a real period because you're not really ovulating. So basically it interferes with your body's signals, hormones, inner guidance. This is why women may say like they finally feel like themselves again after they get off the pill. Conversely, I've heard many people say they feel really bad after getting off the pill because their body is trying to like regulate again. And if you've been on it for a long time, it can take a very long time for your hormones to regulate. There are actually studies that show women on birth control will be attracted to different men. So like it messes with the way that you interpret scents, and like how people smell is actually one of the ways that we like find people attractive. So there's studies that show that women who are on birth control choose mates differently than women who are not, which is interesting. Another consideration is that it contributes to many different nutritional and mineral deficiencies over time. The big ones being folate, which is vitamin B9, B6, zinc, and then like some trace minerals like selenium, phosphorus, magnesium. And then the requirements for some vitamins like increase. So like if you are on birth control, you will need more vitamin C, more vitamin E, and more vitamin A just because of the way that your body will synthesize those vitamins. And if you do want to conceive someday, but you're on birth control now, keep in mind it can take a long time to regulate after birth control. So you want to give yourself more than just a few months to get off birth control and conceive. Obviously, birth control may still be the best choice for some women, and most women are simply never informed of the alternative, which is to track your cycle, get to know your body, and avoid, like, use protection during your fertile window, basically. But that's not like, that's called the fertility awareness method. If you are interested, there's like a lot of courses on it online. But that's basically all I will say about birth control here. Okie doke. So we're gonna jump into period pain, because I know that period pain is like a big issue for many, many women. And I'm going to read page 144 of this book because I just think that her paragraph just says it very well. So this is in regards to like pain as a symptom. So symptoms wake us up. They draw our attention to the part of the body where they occur, and we can't escape our wombs if they are making pain, and we cannot ignore the menstrual cycle if it makes us behave differently for a week or month. So with each new cycle comes an opportunity to know yourself better, connect with your inner wisdom, and step into your power as a woman. So she goes on to say that painful period symptoms are likely related to elevated prostaglandin levels, and prostaglandins are heightened in the body's response to inflammation. So inflammation isn't necessarily all bad. It is what aids us in every single healing process. You can think of inflammation as another means of communication in our body. It's an immune response, but of course, chronic inflammation is not good. This means that our body is constantly in the fight mode, trying to heal, but it can't clear out the junk, so we continue to be in pain. Women with painful periods have been found to have almost 4 times the amount of prostaglandins in their endometrial tissue. And so if you remember when I was talking about the menstrual phase in the beginning, prostaglandins are what cause the uterus to contract to get the blood out. But obviously, if you have way too many prostaglandins and it's contracting so hard, that's what's going to cause your intense cramping and your intense pain. So how can we reduce prostaglandins? So there's some things we can do that are like nutritional, some things that are environmental, and like physical factors too. So here are some ideas. I'm not a doctor. You should check with whoever you want to check with before you make changes. But this is just some ideas I'm going to throw out there. So you can eliminate or try to greatly reduce seed oils such as canola oil, so soybean oil, vegetable oils, which is basically in like almost all packaged snacks and foods. We can cook with stable fats like butter, ghee, tallow, and coconut oil. Fats that are solid at room temperature basically have a more solid structure, and they don't go rancid when you cook them. So even olive oil, if you're heating it to really high temperatures, is going, like, if you get it too hot, it's going to be unstable and rancid in your body. So olive oil is great for like cold salad dressings and stuff like that. But focus on like the solid fats like butter and coconut oil for cooking. Or like even avocado oil, I think has a pretty high smoke point. So I use that sometimes to roast vegetables and stuff. We can greatly reduce processed foods. I know you've all heard that before. White flour, white sugar, all that jazz. Switch to organic and grass-fed meat and dairy, and mitigate environmental toxins. We can support our mineral and vitamin ratios with food first and supplements second. So, I do want to say also, like, fat is very important for our hormones. So going on really low fat diets is not going to be the best for us to have healthy hormones and healthy cycles. And also like really low calorie diets are not going to be the best for our metabolisms or our hormones. So the less fuel that you give your body kind of learns to run on less fuel and learns to run on less. And then that's when it takes shortcuts. Like so if you like run out of a certain mineral, your body will try to do it with a different mineral and you'll kind of just keep running out of things. So we want to be able to eat until we are full and eat all of the macronutrients. So protein, fat, carbs. We want them all. We just want the good versions of them. So instead of white bread, we can eat sweet potatoes. And carbs are not the devil, but we have to choose our carbs wisely. There's nothing wrong with quinoa and sweet potatoes and fruit. Fruit is like a nutritional powerhouse. So there are some nutrients that have actually been shown in studies to reduce period pain specifically. So magnesium, glycinate or citrate supplement, or like using Epsom salt baths the week before your period. If you supplement with magnesium the week before your period, it can decrease prostaglandins by 45%. So that is one thing that you could try. Another thing is 30 to 50 milligrams of zinc your week prior to menstruation. So if you are low in zinc, you could try that if you think you might be low in zinc. Foods that are high in zinc are shellfish, oysters, mussels, and red meat. So good grass-fed ground beef, good source of zinc. You could get more vitamin A and D and some B vitamins through beef liver capsules or cod liver oil. So my mom used to mix cod liver oil with applesauce for us as kids, and I just kind of thought that that's how applesauce tasted. And I still take it with applesauce to this day. And then calcium through high quality dairy. I know there's a lot of brands that are like low heat pasteurized in stores. Or if you can get your hands on raw milk, that would obviously be best. Okay, other considerations like balancing blood sugar is like a really underrated thing to do for your health. So like instead of just eating an apple, can you eat an apple with a piece of like well-sourced cheese, or an apple with some peanut butter to get some fat and carb, or protein and carb. Cottage cheese is really good for that. I like to just take cottage cheese is really high in protein, so just pairing cottage cheese with a fruit makes it really easy to get a protein and carb at each snack/meal. Another thing to consider would be eliminating or limiting caffeine and alcohol for like a month of your cycle and seeing if that helps your period pain. Because a lot of people have said like caffeine greatly affects that, and alcohol as well. Definitely one thing you can do is to stop drinking coffee on an empty stomach because the first thing that that does is like spike your cortisol in the morning. So always try to eat a good protein-rich breakfast, like 30 grams of protein, and then have your coffee after that. Oh man, 10 minutes? Okay, gotta speed this up. Um, don't be afraid of fat. I already said that. All right. So, some of the environmental factors. Overexercising while also undereating is a major stress to our body. Emotional or physical trauma, plastic exposure, not like toxic cookware, lack of sleep, and the menstrual products that you use. So, if you could switch to cloth pads or a Diva cup, or there's a brand Cora, Cora. I think Target even has them. They're like unbleached organic pads and tampons. Um, because some people like react to the bleach and stuff that they put in period products. Some physical factors that you may or may not be aware of is like the actual position of your uterus. So some people's uterus can be tilted one way or the other, and your body will have to cramp harder to get the blood out. So there are actual like people who do massages of your womb, like from the outside, and can fix that. Another thing that I brought to show you, well, I didn't bring it anywhere because I'm at my house, but this is a yoni steam seat. So it has a hole in the middle. And but what you do is boil a pot of water, put some salt in it, if salt is all you have, or you can put some herbs in there. You boil it all and you put this over top, and then you sit on it and you steam yourself. And it's actually been shown, like I can send more information in the email, but basically this kind of cleanses the uterus, increases blood flow and warmth, supports your lymph flow, and relaxes your pelvic floor muscles. It's really good for hemorrhoids, or like if you have clots or brown blood in your period, you could try steaming every day or every other day for the week leading up to your period. Moxibustion is another herb that can help. So this is my Moxa box, and I do moxibustion treatments on postpartum moms. So you put the herb in the box, you light it on fire. It doesn't touch to your skin, but you lay it over your abdomen, and it's basically like a heating pad, but like an herbal, awesome heating pad. So you can reach out to me if you'd like to try this for a treatment. It strengthens the uterus, eliminates the blood that needs to be eliminated, and it builds your white and red blood cell count. Okay, last but not least, castor oil packs. So castor oil has been shown to help with pain, migraines, fibroids, constipation. It increases lymphatic flow, boosts immune function, reduces inflammation, and therefore reduces prostaglandins. It can enhance your liver function, and you would also use this during your luteal phase unless you're trying to conceive. All of this stuff will kind of like bring on your period. So if you're trying to conceive, these would kind of be contraindicated in the week before your period. Basically, you're just going to take a good organic castor oil and you spread it out on like a cotton flannel sheet like this, and you put it over your belly, and you put a heating pack on top. And these things are amazing. I've heard so many success stories from castor oil packs. It's probably the cheapest thing that I just mentioned. So if you wanted to try castor oil packs first and see if that helps any of your symptoms, they're really, really good. And you can also use them to break down scar tissue after having C-sections. So castor oil packs for the win. Alrighty, so I think that is mostly all. We're probably going to get cut off here soon. But if anybody has any questions, you could unmute yourself and go for